I'm catching you up on everything you need to know from Kansas City Chiefs training camp day 12 up in St. Joe and from the past weekend, all on today's KCSN Update presented by DraftKings.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome into today's KCSN Update presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Tucker Franklin. Very stoked to be with you. Get you caught up on everything that you might have missed through the weekend and on Monday's practice up in St. Joe. Chiefs did have an off day on Sunday, coming back with full pads on Monday, so it was a full padded practice up there on Monday. Weather's kind of cooled off for the Chiefs up there in St. Joe, thankfully, because it was getting pretty hot. Getting pretty warm as the Chiefs prepare for their first preseason game of the season this Sunday against the New Orleans Saints in that, I think it's the Mercedes-Benz Superdome now. They've changed the name of it so much. I think that's what they're calling it now. But in case you missed it, something that came down on Friday, Charles Omenihu is suspended for the first 6 games of the Chiefs' 2023 season. He's still eligible to practice and play in these preseason games, but the Chiefs will be without Charles Omenihu for these first 6 games of the season. He'll be eligible for the Chargers game in Week 7. Not something you really wanted to see if you're a Chiefs fan. Unfortunate timing of that suspension to come down to, as the Chiefs still don't have Chris Jones back yet on the team. It hasn't reported yet, sadly, and we still are thinking about Chris Jones and his extension and everything going on out there. If he will get an extension prior to reporting to the Kansas City Chiefs training camp. Andy Reid had some really interesting stuff to say about it. And at the end of the video, stick around. You'll get to hear what Andy Reid had to say from the podium on Monday. I've got all of his best clips that he's got. But let's go ahead. Let's dive into this injury report from Monday. Some good news. Only 3 guys on the injury report from Monday. That's better than the 7 that were on the injury report the other day. So only Jody Fortson with that shoulder injury, L'Jarius Sneed with his knee injury, and Kadarius Toney with their knee injury did not practice. Everyone else on the team worked in some capacity. Mike Dana back out there dealing with that calf issue that he's been struggling with. Charles Omenihu also with the calf as well. But those guys back out there working in some capacity is good news for the Chiefs. Now, I'm curious, Chiefs Kingdom, you can let me know in the comment section, how worried are you about L'Jarius Sneed's knee issue? How worried are you about Jody Fortson's shoulder issue? 2 guys that have been out of practice for quite some time. Andy Reid spoke on L'Jarius Sneed's knee issue because it has been a little bit of time. We haven't really heard a whole lot about it. Here's what Andy had to say about L'Jarius's knee.
It swells, so we're trying to keep the swelling down on that. And the better we do that, the better off he's going to be for the season.
I'm interested to see how much work he does get in the preseason, as well as Jody Fortson. So let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of those injuries, if they're that big of a deal, if there's something to worry about, or if they're just taking precautionary measures. Obviously, we know that Kadarius Toney is not going to be having a whole lot of work this preseason when it comes to his meniscus cleanup surgery. But those 2 guys, Jody Fortson, L'Jarius Sneed, 2 guys that I'm keeping an eye on. I'm trying to make sure that those guys will be healthy coming into the season, because it's going to be, those couple guys could play a very big role in the Chiefs team, and especially L'Jarius Sneed with the way he's played. And it's coming into a contract year for him. And late great Terez Paylor, he says contract year's undefeated. Might see that for Chris Jones, might see that for L'Jarius Sneed as well. So very interested to see those couple guys there. So let's get to some of the best podium clips from Andy Reid today. He stepped to the podium and I said, you know what? I got to give you guys all of the best things that he had to say. Let's go ahead and start with the Charles Omenihu suspension. It's a very interesting situation with the way that the NFL choose to suspend games. I'm sure you're no stranger to the NFL's history, you could say, with their inconsistency when it comes to their suspensions. So here's what he had to say about Charles Omenihu's suspension, and he kind of follows that up with kind of who's going to be stepping up in that place.
Now, you're never sure about those, how many games they're going to get. I mean, so you got the 6, and that's where we're at. But we'll work. We knew it was going to be something, so they went that direction. We'll work through it, and the other guys will step up and go. They're handling it well. We'll just see how it all works out during the preseason, who steps up, who doesn't, and we'll just go from there. But I think we have enough bodies there to take care of it.
It's an interesting group of guys. I touched on this on Friday's video of all those guys who are in the room right now that prior to roster cuts that the Chiefs have. I don't necessarily feel as comfortable as Andy Reid is seeming that he feels comfortable with those guys there. Would love to see him add maybe a Carlos Dunlap and even maybe a guy on the interior as well. When you start to talk about the defensive line looking a little thin heading into that first week of the season. We'll see how guys perform in these preseason weeks. It'll be big for them to see development and all that, but it's an interesting room of guys, and one of those guys in that room is first-round pick Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Obviously, a big story this year with drafted in Kansas City, being from Kansas City, but he was kind of set back from OTAs. He had a thumb issue. He had some surgery on it, so he couldn't get in and do all those reps, all that mental stuff that he needed to do. So he's been kind of coming on a little bit slower on training camp, but Andy Reid has noticed, and he touched on Felix's growth during his press conference.
It looks like he's cutting it loose more, so that normally means that he's picking it up a little bit better, and you're seeing him play faster. He's worked in there with the ones, a little bit, so that's also good for him to feel that.
Another big story that's been coming out of camp is how aggressive these Chiefs guys have been playing against each other. And, we've seen Travis Kelce get into some skirmishes. They're not the only ones that have kind of gone back and forth with the defense, but the offense, the defense going at each other. It's turned physical sometimes, a lot of verbal altercations. If you're at camp, you can hear them chirping back and forth to each other. Kind of love to see it if you're the defensive coach, Steve Spagnuolo there. Get some guys getting after this offense. That was the number one offense in the league last year. So their guys have a chip on their shoulder. They want to prove that they're a very good defense, and they've been proving it so far in camp. Guys have been getting after it. Andy Reid made some comments about these guys and their ability to challenge themselves during these dog days of camp, going away to these college dorm rooms, and their ability to still compete with one another.
I like the way they're challenging themselves. That's a part you never know coming in how that's going to be, but I mean, you guys are here. You see it, so you hear it and see it. They're getting after each other, but doing it the right way. But still, it's competitive out here, and that's a good thing.
All right, let's wrap it up with everyone's favorite story, the Chris Jones holdout. Andy Reid was asked about it once again, just because with Chris Jones not being here, he's getting very close to $1 million in fines when it comes to missing out on practice. I would be there pretty quick if I was getting up there as much as he had. I believe as of Monday, it was $850,000 Chris Jones has accumulated in fines. Ugh, that kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit. I couldn't imagine. But we'll see when Chris Jones does report, if he reports before this first training camp preseason game, I should say, or if he reports after they break for camp and they go back to the team facility. But here's what Coach Reid had to say about Chris Jones not being there still.
Yeah, I don't know when he'll be here, but I tell you, any work that he can get will help him, yes. It's a pretty fast game.
You can feel a little bit of tension in that quote there. Andy Reid with a little bit of sauce there in terms of his quote when asking about Chris Jones. Look, he wants Chris Jones in camp. I think that kind of threw a wrench in a whole lot of stuff for the Chiefs, for Andy Reid, and for everybody involved. Chris not showing up to camp, but new DirecTV commercial out with Travis and Chris in it, so make sure to go check that out. Chris has got to find a way to pay for these fines somehow, so it doesn't make sense why he's popping up in these DirecTV commercials. But that's going to do it for today's episode of KCSN Update. I appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end of this video. Drop a lock in the comment section below if you are locked in here at KCSN, to where we give you these updates every single day on our YouTube channel. Also, we got really good podcasts coming out. Tomorrow morning, the KC Lab will be coming out talking about Chris Jones, talking about some of the recent quotes that GM Brett Veach had about Chris Jones and the contract negotiations as a whole. You can go check that out on our audio platforms on Tuesday morning, or you can listen to that podcast live on our YouTube channel at 8 p.m. Central Time. We'll be going live. They'll be talking about it. So make sure you stick around onto our YouTube page there. You can go find that video on our YouTube channel. So really appreciate you guys sticking with us here at KC Sports Network. Subscribe so you become a first teamer, and you get to be a first teamer going into the season. Everybody loves that feeling of being a first teamer going into the season on a Super Bowl winning team. So keep that in mind. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you never miss a post as well. I'll be back tomorrow with another KCSN update. So until then, I'll talk to you guys later.